Hey guys, welcome back. This is Salty Sicilian, and we're here to talk about audio. Now, I hope you enjoyed my little intro video. I thought it was funny, but it's actually not really a joke. That is about how bad it is in the game. And when I say audio is a problem, I am not talking about it being broken, okay? That typically is the discussion about how, you know, someone walked up on you and you didn't hear it or yada yada. Okay, there are a plethora of videos and posts online about Tarkov audio and how broken it is. Now, I don't actually think it's that broken. There is specifically an issue with stairwells. That's a known problem that I believe that they are working on. That's more of a complicated issue. The hearing range, I think, is atrocious, and it always has been. Now, audio is probably one of the most talked about issues in Tarkov, along with cheaters and bugs, but audio is pretty high up there on the list. Most of the time, people are talking about how broken it is, mostly regarding people getting killed without hearing the guy walk up on them, things of that nature, but I think that the way the audio is implemented intentionally is a problem. Now, the hearing range in Tarkov is a problem in multiple factors, and let me explain to you why. Movement incentive. There's always been this big thing about rats and chads, okay? You're a rat if you crab walked or you sat in a room for 3 minutes, and you're a chad if you run around with a couch backpack on, whatever. The truth is, everyone at some point in time rats, okay? Because it's realistic. You would want to do that in a real life scenario. You wouldn't want to give people an audio cue that you're in a building whenever someone walks in. But the range at which you give that audio cue is actually ridiculous, in my opinion. Now, before you go and you say, Salty, headsets are realistic, that's how they're like, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think so. I've got some Walker Razors right here, and they're not the best, okay? There's definitely on the cheaper end of headsets, but they cannot amplify audio that's not audible at that range. I've got a lot of experience in recording and playing and live sound, and I own some pretty good microphones. If you took my best microphone and cranked the gain up on it, and then you went outside and opened a duffel bag, I highly doubt you would even see a little blip of a sound because it wouldn't be audible through the wall like that. This plays a huge part in people not feeling like they can move around the map. Most people get called out for being rats when they're just simply trying not to make a sound. And everything makes a sound. Some people don't even realize some of the things they do make a sound. And I believe that also is where a lot of cheating accusations come from, especially from newer players. They don't realize that that shuffle, if they just turn 180 degrees, they just made a loud shuffle. Or if they, just about anything you do makes a sound actually. But a veteran player can walk up to dorms, sit outside, listen, and hear if there's someone on the third floor, and then the second floor, and the first floor, and what they're doing, and what room they're in. And with the way that Tarkov has audio cues, such as glass, wood, metal, a good player can almost pinpoint exactly where that guy is. That makes Tarkov a pretty sound whore heavy game, and we all know that, and it's always been like that. What if it was more visual? What if we needed to rely more on our eyes than we do our ears? You see, Tarkov is actually missing one very important factor of these headsets. Now, they amplify audio, but what else do? They compress and they crunch down on sounds that reach a certain threshold. When you fire your gun, it's not loud to you. It clamps down on it. Even if you just clap near your ears, it's gonna clamp down on that sound. Now, Tarkov doesn't really do that. You don't hear that compression, not as obviously as you do in real life. And I think that would play a big part in how gunfights went down. If there's shooting going on in that building, you are not going to be able to hear footsteps, rotations, jumps, any movement of that nature. That audio is being clamped and compressed, and you're not going to be able to hear any of that. Aside from that problem, the hearing range in itself should be reduced probably by 20 to 30%, if not more. Because the way that audio is right now is practically wall hacks, especially if you have maxed out your soft skills and you're using the best contacts in the game. It's practically wall hacks. And I just think that makes for bad gameplay. I don't think that we need to be able to hear that well. I'm sure that if we were to make those changes, there would be a ton of complaints and I didn't hear this guy, or this guy came up on me, I didn't even hear him, yada, yada, yada. But really, that would be more realistic. Your boots don't make the sound of glass and gravel and ceramic shards grinding against a cheese grater when you're walking. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, and I'm pretty tired of hearing that sound, to be honest. But the weird thing about Tarkov is it seems like only the player actions extend sound as far as it does. Let's look at the generators for an example. Say you're upstairs on interchange by the generator, and you have an opponent who's across the atrium from you at the front of the mall on the second floor. You're not going to hear anything but that generator. He could hear you prone, stand up from prone, jump, whatever action that you make, he could likely hear it. And he's not hearing the generator anymore. Because it's almost like there's a certain wall right there, boom, where now you don't hear the generator anymore, but you hear player audio past that point. Now, I'm not saying the generators are the biggest problem in the game. It's more so just about the fact that audio is way too strong. Tarkov is a game that is extremely punishing to die in. We all know that. And what's that going to do? It's going to make people try their hardest to not die. So it's no surprise that we have a current meta of sitting still right when you get an audio cue, because everything you do makes a sound. I think what you would see is a lot more players relying on visuals and a lot more players feeling like they can move across the map. Right now, at the start of the raid, I feel like everyone, runs, beelines it to this hill or beelines it to this spot, and then they're going to hold. They're going to hold for 5 to 10 minutes because they're waiting for the other players that spawn to come that way. And if you got one of the better spawns than one of those other guys, say you got to dorms first or you got to the resort first, you have a massive advantage, and that's mainly because of audio. You can't watch every corner of the building the whole time, but you can practically hear every corner of the building the whole time. So slow walking should be a lot more effective than it is now. It's still quite audible. You have to be listening for it, but it's still very audible, even at decent ranges. I think this would all really help the flow of the map, as well as not give people who got the better spawn such a huge advantage over a specific point of interest. I think camping is a legitimate tactic, but right now it feels like it's the absolute best thing that you could do. The best way you could play Tarkov right now is to spawn, move 20 feet and sit in a bush for 5 minutes to kill the other guys who spawned, and go from that bush to another bush, to another bush, to another bush, and minimize the amount of time that you're not in a bush, and sit and don't make any sound. And I don't care if that's realistic or not. It doesn't make for good gameplay. That's the problem here. It doesn't make for a fun gameplay loop for everyone to be sitting. So let's make it a little bit easier for people to move without being heard, and I think you'd see a lot more action in the server. I could see if you're worried that that would make camping even stronger than what it is, but I don't really think so, because that would give you the opportunity to also not be heard by the camper as well. And for the love of God, why is prone so loud? That makes no sense. I could see why it's loud to you, because your headset is could be rubbing against stuff on the ground or on your shoulders, but why is it as loud as it is? And the ability to say, oh, that guy just stood up from prone, it's way too much information. There's way too much information that everyone's gathering in their headset all the time. ADSing. You should be able to damn near silently ADS if you want to. It's actually really easy to do. So just to recap here, maybe a 15 to 20% reduction in sounds that your player can make outside of shooting his gun, of course, and a 30% reduction on hearing range of those player sounds. I think you'd see a lot more movement on the map. You'd get those people to stop sitting in rooms for 15 minutes. We could move around without being completely audible to everyone within 150 feet. So I think that'd be a good thing. Anyway, let me know what you think. Please comment below. Let's talk about it. Always trying to get these discussions happening. If you like this content, please consider subscribing to my channel, or maybe come hang out with me on Twitch. I stream most days 5 to 9 p.m. on the weekends, sometimes in the morning and the afternoon. Just depends on if my wife lets me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.